you for coming in early today, Mike.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Great week of shows so far. Feedback not really reflecting that,
What? What does
but
that mean?
I don't know what it is. Well, I have a feeling I know what it is. I think very recently, well, throughout your entire history of our show, you've been positioned as a villain. It's worked. It's kind of one note, but it works for us. That's the groove. And then when that's the expectation, people find you endearing and you're able to cut through that. But over the last few months, you've been positioned as like the Thanos of our universe, like a mega villain, and it's been harder to cut through that. I think we've done a really good job with the dynamic. Billy and I have been comedically synced, having a go at you, kind of layering a show beneath a show. I've really enjoyed the week of shows. I don't think that I think a lot of the feedback that we receive is not good faith feedback. I think it's a lot of people that just see your face, decide they either are not going to give it a try, maybe haven't listened to our show for a while, and then
Or they
just
are giving it a try, and they listen. Hate watching.
yeah.
I'm gonna take it.
Oh, no doubt. No, I don't mean to say like every bit of bad feedback that we get is just a lie. No, there's plenty of people that hate you, and I'm grateful that they still think that you're going to turn it around for them. I was in that camp when I was producing the Levitard show. I hated the segment for a very long time. Then it went away, and I was happy about that. And then he came back, and the baggage had kind of there was some distance between that, and you got a little bit more endearing too.
Well, thank you. That's my goal. But no, my goal is to do good shows with you, to do good shows every day on Nothing Personal. And something happened on your show yesterday. I thought we were this close to getting a scoop from you. I thought we had it with Messi and his 3-year deal, potential 3-year deal. It's a big deal. He's a free agent. I would say that his turn at Inter Miami has been hugely successful for the franchise. Their valuation has grown, the interest has grown. They're an internationally known team now. I would say there's not one negative thing. There's a new stadium opening in Miami next year, but he's a free agent. And so keeping him, how important, if Messi leaves Inter Miami, is that a huge setback for MLS?
It's hard to say. Yeah, optics wise, it's a huge setback. Although they just made a massive international signing yesterday that globally may have not the same impact because Messi's arguably the greatest soccer player of all time, the greatest superstar of all time. But Son going to LAFC is a massive, massive signing. What'd you make of the press conference where he admitted, not my first choice, brutally honest?
I loved that, but what I was thinking about was mostly Beckham
Okay.
when that happened. Now, are you saying that it's a bigger deal with him than it was with Beckham?
No, I think that you can make a sound argument that Son to LAFC is the third biggest signing in MLS
You
history.
have Messi 1, Beckham 2?
Messi, I think you
The
could
Beckham
argue
one was big.
Yeah, I think you could argue Beckham was bigger than Messi, but that's a debate for another day. We know who 1 and 2 are. 3, I think, could be Son because Son taps into an Asian market that has eluded MLS quite a bit, and he is like if you're Korean, that's your guy. I mean, if you follow Mina and her family, they've been all about Son for the better half of a decade. Mina's got to be thrilled being out in Los Angeles to see him. I think it's going to be hugely impactful. I think that jersey's going to go triple platinum. But I think it's a huge signing. But if Messi leaves, is it a stain on MLS optics-wise? Depends on where he leaves to. If he leaves to a childhood club, I think people can understand that. If he decides to take a cash grab at Saudi Arabia, I think that would reflect poorly because he eschewed advances from them, and then that would mean that he had regret that he didn't do that earlier.
Or he didn't make the money that he thought he'd make. Because remember, when he joined Inter Miami, there were so many other streams of revenue that he was going to tap. And we have no indication. All we heard from Garber is what's happening sort of with Apple TV and the Apple subs, but we really don't know for sure what Messi is collecting.
Messi is making a ton of money, and it definitely tapped into an American marketing base. He has beer sponsorships, and he's got an energy drink sponsorship. He's always had sponsorships, but they've been more bountiful. He has the Lowe's sponsorship. A Lowe's sponsorship with Messi does not exist without the MLS partnership. It just doesn't. I think it's been very financially beneficial to Messi. I think he likes the lifestyle here. If I had to handicap this, and I'm not I don't like making predictions and that being positioned as news. The news is Inter Miami feels very good about the offer that they have in front of Messi. Messi's been happy here. They feel good about it. If I had to make a prediction, I think Messi does re-up with Inter Miami. But this isn't like the last time where the news was that Inter Miami was a very serious contender when there were very reputable reporters saying that he was going to go back to PSG and that Inter Miami wasn't really being considered. There was basically weekly scoopage that no, Inter Miami feel very good about this. The news was that Inter Miami felt very good about where they're positioned. Now everyone knows that.
So, in your view, is Garber involved in this? Because he was had to have been involved when Messi started. Because you can't make a deal with the league without Don Garber being involved. But now that it's a re-up, is it all the same terms that you think that he'll still keep getting a piece of subs and there's still league involvement, or is this now a straight salary deal?
David, he's not going back. Like, he's not going to take a step back in his next deal. I think his riches only grow from here.
But he's past his prime, no? Or is
he's still the
he
best player in the league.
He scored 2 goals per game. I think Coke and I had it like 5 straight games. It was some record. It was insane.
I mean, LeBron's still very, very good. LeBron's not best player in the league good anymore, but he's still very, very good. A past his prime LeBron is still a massive commodity worth
$51.6 million.
Messi is past his prime, but he is also the very best player in MLS. Head and shoulders, I think.
Wow.
So it's to answer your question, is Don Garber involved? This is Moss family spearheading this, and recent history would show us that MLS kind of takes Inter Miami's lead and figures it out from there.
Yeah, Coca was just whispering in my ear that Garber had said recently, and I didn't see this, Coca, and I'm sure you did, Mike, that he has no plans to come to Miami because he doubts that Messi even wants to speak to him.
That's how it goes. I think that, look, you had your own experience in dealings with the Moss family. Different sport, though. In this sport, they're not the richest ownership group at all, despite the valuation going sky high. You know the difference between valuation and being cash rich. Credit to them, because they've been trying to push this league, and they've been the ones making the splashy signings. They've faced a lot of adversity, a lot of doubt. I'm sure several times over the last 10 years, you've doubted whether or not they would exist, whether or not they would get the stadium deal, certainly whether or not they'd get Messi, and they've succeeded. At every single turn, they've pushed through. They live that motto, freedom to dream. They really do. They want to push this league to the next level by making more aggressive signings, by essentially doing away with the salary cap, or at least really restructuring it. The DP rule and the TAM rule and the GAM rule. It's MLS has a whole sick rule book that, you know, if you follow it letter to the law, maybe Inter Miami shouldn't even be fielding the roster that they have right now. The Moss family feels like this league needs to be more aggressive, and they put their money where their mouth is. Believe it or not, some of the richer owners that are some of the legacy owners that want to have this salary cap structure in place, a more sound business model.
So for you personally, when you're watching Inter Miami, they qualified for the knockout round just last night in the League Cup. They're going to be that.
David, you could argue that's the greatest achievement in North American, in American club soccer, them making it to the knockout round of that tournament.
So when you watch that, are you a bigger fan of Inter Miami or a bigger fan of Miami Hurricanes? What excites you?
Miami Hurricanes, no question.
Oh, it's not even close.
No, Miami Hurricanes are my number one passion in athletics.
Yes.
Nothing.
I didn't mean like your family.
No, I mean in athletics, nothing comes close to the Miami Hurricanes. It's Miami Hurricanes first, and there's a wide gulf. It used to be the Browns, but when the Browns exited the equation for me, I just took that passion for the Browns and doubled up on the Miami Hurricanes.
So this is now year 4 under Cristobal? Is that where we are now?
Yes.
And what is going in, I think, the preseason poll, coaches poll?
Top 10.
Top 10.
Mm-hmm.
Well, number 10, top 10.
Mm-hmm.
10 is 10.
Mm-hmm.
What is your view there?
I think it's been successful. Look, they lost 2 games by a total of 9 points last year. They led 21-0 at Syracuse. They got to make it to Charlotte. It's hugely embarrassing. They've only been to Charlotte once. Now, one time they did make it. They did qualify for Charlotte, but they self-imposed a punishment. Ironically enough, it was going to be FSU versus Miami, the title game that the ACC made this whole deal with 20 plus years ago to get, and they've only had one opportunity to have it, and then Miami self-penalized because of the Nevin Shapiro stuff. SMU runs into the ACC in their first year and makes it to Charlotte. It's hugely embarrassing with a former Miami Hurricanes offensive coordinator and a bunch of former Miami Hurricanes players in the portal. Now, if they played head-to-head, does that go poorly for SMU? I think so. I think Miami was a better team than SMU last year, but the fact remains they've made it in their first year to Charlotte as many times as Miami has made it to Charlotte in 20-plus years in the ACC. Miami needs to get to Charlotte. Miami needs to get to the ACC championship game. They need to get to the CFP. You have a recruiting-based head coach that has shown you proof of concept year-over-year improvement. Year one, lose by a little. Year one, lose by a lot. Year two, lose by a little. Year three, win by a little. Year four, win by a lot. That's the formula for a recruiting-based head coach that needs to come in and basically wipe the slate clean.
But it's got to be there's some correlation to NIL. I mean, Carson Beck comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Carson Beck comes in.
A lot of bad reporting on what he's making.
What's he making?
I'm not going to say that. That's not my business to put out there.
Well, what's the bad reporting?
There are insane numbers out there. The 4.7 million was reported out there. It's not that.
And your view is that it is insanely reporting too high.
Yeah.
So it's far below 4.7. Why would it be insane to spend 4.7 on a quarterback to replace the number one pick overall who left?
I'm not here to argue that. You may think that that's a fair price. There are plenty of people that do. And if Miami makes it to the CFP, I think it's, bargain. But that's not the number. And a lot of this is other schools trying to get out ahead of the news cycle. They don't want to admit schools like Oregon and Georgia, who have won plenty of recruiting battles head-to-head with Miami. If they lose a recruit to Miami, they put out to their beat writers, the national writers, that it has to be NIL. It boggles the mind that Miami would have more money than Oregon or Georgia. They don't. Do they have competitive offers? Can they match? Yeah. Are they judicious with certain recruits that they prioritize, and maybe they do have the most aggressive offer? It's not super transparent. Who knows? But Miami doesn't win recruiting battles because of NIL. It's a contributing factor, but head-to-head recruiting battles, Miami wins recruiting battles because they have a maniac at head coach who was built for the sicko world that we're in.
So different than the pro leagues, I guess, where correct word gets out about the signings of free agents and what the deals are. The union gets it, the league has it, someone leaks it, and you get actually what contracts are. Do you believe there should be full transparency?
No.
How come?
No. Well, when the ADs and the head coaches have full transparency with their offers, then the players can too.
Well, there's no transparency of offers in big league sports in the NBA free agency. There's no transparency of offers, but there's transparency of deals.
Right. When the deals get through, I do think that when a deal gets signed, there should be a database. If the players are allowed a union and that's collectively bargained and they decide to make that part of the arrangement, cool with me. But you see the Ohio State AD has said this, Nick Saban has said this, people in government have said this. We want a fair market value. We want a fair market. We want transparency when it comes to these offers.
Free agency.
But they want something different for the kids than what they afford themselves. Jimmy Sexton can pick up a phone and say, "Hey, I got a $50 million offer from Tennessee. What are you going to do here?" The response from the school that's trying to acquire a Jimmy Sexton client isn't like, "Well, hold on, let's put this in the database. Let me vet whether or not this offer is real." They have to do their sleuthing. They have to make some calls to see whether or not they're getting played. But there is a gamesmanship
That's
involved.
like the big leagues, though, Mike.
Right.
The exact same
No.
thing happens to us.
I understand. But they want to make different rules for the kids. For the athletes that are bringing in the revenue. No. You're not afforded the ability to have stalking horses and inflate offers. You're not allowed to do what ADs and head coaches do. You get an offer. It gets put in a database. This is what they want. It gets put in a database. The offer is the offer. By the way, there are going to be schools that try to circumvent that because the NCAA has basically said Big Ten and SEC, you're in charge of enforcement.
They hired a guy from Major League Baseball to be in charge of that. He was a former head of the Department of Investigations. I don't know if you read about that.
Yeah, the NCAA is a friggin' joke.
So is your view the NCAA is on its way out? And so, are you a power?
Eventually.
So you're a Power Four conference guy. That the future is the four conferences. They'll rule the roast. So you're on the skipper side of that.
I do think that it will become Super League. That's where we're headed. This is patently absurd what they're trying to do to these kids. It's not as unfair as them not getting paid at all, but it's the mentality there that they really treat these athletes less than. And they think that.
Talk me through that. They treat them less than because they don't have the ability to be in a true free market, or there's a salary cap, or they have to stay in a hotel room. Tell me what you mean.
Like, I'm not saying this to be provocative. There's a plantation mentality when it comes to college athletics. And now a lot of the people in the NCAA and a lot of the administrators who don't want to take pay cuts themselves, they come with the attitude like, you got your money now, shut up. You have some level of freedom. Be satisfied with that. We're still going to restrict your freedom. It's not going to be free. You're not going to have the same kind of opportunities that administrators have. But why aren't you happy with this? We gave you a big payday, a big settlement, not negotiated by a CBA. It was just handed down. Basically hush money. And you have people with backgrounds that don't have generational wealth that are happy to sign whatever they can to get the money that they never counted on. But that's not fair. For them to be the only people in athletics to have a database in which an offer's there, and this clearinghouse with NIL, fair market value. Just who decides what fair market value is?
Generally, the market.
Exactly. They don't want to do that. You're going to have some bureaucrat somewhere say like, "Oh, your deal with such and such modeling agency. That's that sounds like $25K to me. That's not capitalism. You have the most aggressive capitalist enterprise on the planet in the NCAA, one of, and they want to apply socialist policies to the people that are bringing in the revenue, and that is absurd on the surface.
When there are bans around what employees make, so there are databases, there's information that is shared. A producer of a morning show that has the following ratings and the following audience generally makes between X and Y. Mm-hmm. Do you think that the people in charge of radio shows should have that information as they're making offers to producers?
They do have that information. Agents talk.
I'm asking, do you think they should? Because they all have it.
There is a sleuthing. There is a sleuthing that is done even at the collegiate level.
There are actual documents that come out. When you run a 501c3, you can find out what percentile you're paying your employees. Mm-hmm. The executive director, the head of development, and you can get literally in all businesses on Wall Street. It's the same thing.
You're cutting a little close to the bone here, because I was at a big corporation at ESPN that had me pigeonholed as an executive producer, and they had rules that executive producers make this much, and salary cap structures around what they thought that position was. We're unlike any show in the history of radio. I wasn't your typical executive producer. I did so much more on the bureaucratic side, on the talent side. And yet I had to be pigeonholed into a structure that ESPN saw fit because they never really saw anybody like me coming. And I know that it sounds like we just have a different show. Billy was different than the salary cap structure that they had for other producers. We're a true ensemble. So I think your value is what the market dictates. And just because someone has a copy-paste structure, and even if they're a name brand and an industry leader like ESPN, that doesn't stop someone else, other visionaries out there, to see more potential, to actually recognize what it is that you do, and actually come up with an offer that represents your true value, which is an offer
true
in
value
hand.
to them. Because
that's a true value, period.
Well, your true value to Dan may be different than your true value to a different show.
Right.
And I'm
talking about offers in hand.
But if you have it for the college athletes, do they not have the ability to go out and get an offer, an NIL offer from a school? You say Oregon and Miami go head to head.
A lot.
And so if Miami values the player differently, why are they not allowed to give that player more?
Well, I know the rules have changed on this. Part of your recruiting pitch is you don't actually say, you come here, we give you this much money. You hold previous examples of like your track record. These are the NIL partners that we have. This is what the collective does. You do signings. The Canes Connection, the collective that I donate to and I'm a part of, We have a lot of autograph signings at the team stores. We send a lot of our athletes out to places for autograph signings, and that's how you justify it.
So you don't talk money with players when they're being recruited?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Are you going to say
No, I mean, it's
today
patently absurd. It's patently absurd to believe that there are programs out there that don't talk money. Yes, they absolutely do talk financials.
And what's wrong? What's wrong with that? That's how players. How do you?
I'll never cop to it, but yeah.
You will never cop to the fact where every other school will acknowledge this.
No, they don't.
Nobody
they
will
shouldn't.
tell you that they talk about money with
it's
players.
It's talked about, and the NCAA doesn't enforce this stuff for several years. I do think the rules have changed on this, but you can't actually use NIL to entice an athlete to come over to your school. But we all know that that's absurd.
Because you want to be able to do that, don't you? That's what you're talking about, a free market system. A free market system is you using money to entice.
Here's what I want.
Players.
I want everybody playing by the same rules. Genuinely. Miami got back into the game because NIL afforded Miami to play by the rules. Look at the history of Alabama and all the families that have moved from Hawaii to Tuscaloosa. Look at all the recruits from.
Seems like a downgrade.
Look at all the families from South Florida that all of a sudden the dad has a job at a car dealership in Alabama. Okay, Miami was not afforded the same type of opportunities that SEC schools were. A lot of that's Miami's own doing. A lot of that is a persecution complex that is warranted, by the way. Okay, outsized reaction, Charles Robinson pieces and whatnot. Miami could not get in the game. NIL afforded Miami an opportunity to play by the rules and get back in the game. I would love for there to be a universal standard that everybody has to adhere to that is enforced, because I believe that Miami, a tradition-rich program, being here in paradise, having coaches that have a proven track record of development. Say what you will about Mario Cristobal. He turned a guy that was a fifth-round draft pick at best in Cam Ward to the number 1 overall draft pick. You have proof of concept along the offensive line. There was Jackson Cantwell, the number 1 offensive lineman in the country. He chose Miami over Georgia and I believe Oregon. And everyone just assumed. The narrative was out there, and he, to his credit, was out there trying to say, I haven't put any of this out there. The narrative was, man, Miami's offering him an insane NIL deal. It was not the case. We had a very competitive offer. Jackson Cantwell came to Miami because he saw everything that I spoke about. He saw an offensive line coach in Alex Mirabal that can get guys to the next level. He saw a recent track record with Georgia. I would love a free and fair market where everybody's playing by the same rules, because I think Miami benefits from that. What I don't like is Miami having different rules, because the Big Ten and SEC are going to enforce the rules, and you're going to have things that seem above board, but the cheaters will always find a way, especially in the SEC and the Big Ten. They will always find a way to circumvent the rules. If they're in charge of enforcing the rules, they're certainly going to circumvent and know how to.
Well, it's the inmates running the asylum.
Precisely.
And so,
but it's the inmates only at the Big Ten and the SEC. If I'm not a part of that crew, they're going to look to crack down on me because we affect their bottom dollar. Because everybody. And there's stories that I heard about Nick Saban. This is all secondhand. This is not what I was told directly. But there was a famous story that I heard about Nick Saban crunching film with a coach that is now on Miami staff. Piece that together. He was preparing for the Miami game. He's like, and he pointed to that U on that helmet, is if these guys ever get back, we're all in deep crap. We're all in deep crap. They know if they all have to play by the same rules, why wouldn't you want to play down here?
I thought that the NCAA was doing that, actually, and that's what the enforcement is trying to make it universal. But they do have to acquiesce to the power of the Power Four, and there have been a bunch of announcements recently about committees and how it's going to be overweighted.
They've outsourced everything. They're just going to sit back and collect revenue, and maybe they'll bring something to the table when it comes to non-revenue sports enforcement and setting up these tournaments.
They're trying to keep their jobs.
Yes,
that's
but
pretty much it.
They're just trying to keep the stream of money coming for as long as they can, and I do think that they will for about a half a decade more before we go into full-on Super League and private equity.
Super Leagues have been tried. They tried that over in the EPL. Didn't quite happen.
Yeah, well, honestly, Americans should take note from what they do over across the pond. I mean, you increase the price of a soda 50 cents, and you have a full-on revolt on your hands. You have people with, and they have,
I've seen it.
And they give in. Look at there was a multi-billion-dollar deal with the Super League. You have protesters showing up to the stadium. It goes away inside of 48 hours. Over here, the American consumer is so beat down by fees, and this is just the way that it is. And we saw with the Club World Cup, FIFA sets these outrageous prices because they know the American consumer, we can just bully them. They should take a lesson from what happens over in Europe.
We're out of time.